Well, we return now to our lead story. Hurricane Florence. First responders along the East Coast are heading south to join the massive efforts to prepare for the storm. About 40 first responders from the Philadelphia area are heading towards the storm with trucks loaded with equipment and resources. Well, this time last year, those first responders were deployed to help areas hit by Hurricane Harvey and then later by Irma and Maria. Joining me now to discuss Florence's path is the director of the National Hurricane Center, Ken Graham. So, Ken, what's the current timeline for Hurricane Florence?
Well, definitely still a major hurricane here, and really looking at the satellite, we have aircraft out there now. We have an expansion, actually, of this hurricane. It's indicating some sort of strengthening going on, so we'll have some updates as we get more information in. But the timeline is this. We expect a major hurricane to continue to make it towards the Carolina coast. So it looks like by Friday morning, reaching the coastline. And then if you notice, some of these lines get closer together. The closer they are together means the slower the storm. And that's why we're expecting, we've got a lot of storm surge. We've got heavy rain and the high winds. Just about every aspect of the impacts is what we can expect.
So, it was interesting, those lines you were talking about, the fact that it slows down there and that it looks to me as landfall, right? Is that correct? What impact could that have?
Yeah, the big one is, of course you're going to have that storm surge or life-threatening storm surge in some areas right along the path and to the right. But here's the deal with this. When you slow down a system like this, you not only get the dangerous storm surge, but when you sit that long, the rainfall totals start to accumulate. And in this case, a dangerous situation with, some catastrophic rains, 15 to 20 inches. And I wouldn't be surprised to see some areas with 30. And by the way, for all the viewers, it isn't just a coastal event. Some of those totals along the coast, but look how far inland that we go with time. We get in Virginia, we get into North Carolina, and look, even up to Maryland and Delaware, we get some high rainfall totals. And when you get that high, it's just a dangerous situation.
Talk to me a little bit more about that dangerous situation. Remind me again, I believe Harvey was about 35 inches of rain ultimately when it was all over. 30 or 35. How is it different, the topography of Texas being flat versus the areas that you're seeing here, the Carolinas and Virginia, which I believe is more hilly, no?
Yeah, every one of these is so different. It's really hard to compare. With Harvey, it had some areas with 60 inches of rain. But, this is a different area. So, we got a mountainous area. So you think about 20 to 30 inches with some of the terrain that you have. That could lead to really quick flash flooding, not just ponding of the water, but in this case with the terrain funneling that water into areas. So river flooding, you talk about every ravine, some of that could drain in these areas. Just very dangerous situations. And adding on the terrain, that just makes it even worse in this case.
And there are still currently 3 other named storms moving across the Atlantic. How are warming ocean temperatures impacting this year's hurricane season?
I'll tell you, we do. We're looking at trying to come up with, looking at some of these graphics. We're dealing with several. I mean, the ocean temperature is very warm. So you look at Florence ahead of it, very warm water that we have ahead and little in the atmosphere to stop it. So the forecast is for a major hurricane. But we're looking at Isaac potentially impacting some of the islands, Martinique, Dominica, as well as, potentially we got hurricane watches actually for some of those areas. So we're looking at that system. And believe it or not, another system, an area of disturbed weather here that could move into the Gulf, bringing some rainfall for the Texas coast as well. So we went from not too busy in August to really lighten up the tropical scope here in September.
All right, Director of the National Hurricane Center, Ken Graham. Ken, thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.